Okay. Good deal. All right. So who wants to kick things off?
I can.
Okay, so which part of the park is the tri actually takes place? Towards the very end or in the middle where the concession stand? Which part of the park is it?
Yeah. So if you do a Google map search, it's at North Beach, which is, if you're familiar with Fort DeSoto Park, you come into the main gate and like drive up just a little bit past the gate. There's that big flag and it dead ends. If you take a right and follow the main road all the way to the very end, it's that last parking lot on your left.
Okay, so North Beach. Okay.
North Beach. Yep. So we chose that spot intentionally because there's a lot of parking, really ample staging area. We're gonna have, transitions on the asphalt, so you don't have to deal with grass or anything like that in your cleats. Just really easy in, easy out. Logistics are super low key, so you don't have to worry about like fighting people for parking or anything like that. So,
and is the runs gonna be gravel and sidewalk or just
TBD. So what we have it currently as is it's out on the pedestrian path that's closest to the road, and coming back in, it's on a kind of like a mixed use path that is gravel. But again, all of this is subject to change based on the conditions that we're seeing that weekend. If we find that it's going to be muddy, like we've had a lot of rain, we'll just make it an out and back on that pedestrian path so that y'all aren't slogging through mud or anything.
Okay, good.
Okay.
I have a question. Sorry.
Go ahead.
It's Sari. Hey,
Sari.
I have a question about how far the run is from the beach to the bike.
If I had to estimate,
yes,
I
won't hold you to it.
Yeah. Come show me your watch after the race. No, I would estimate it is probably 200 to 300 yards.
Oh,
because that beach is fairly wide, but it's pretty hard packed.
Yes.
So, I would estimate maybe a minute to 4 minute run jog. So it's not like we're having y'all go like a half mile or more. It's very palatable. Hopefully.
Thank you.
So yeah. Did you have another question, Sari? Sorry.
How do you get the sand off your feet at the bike? Do you bring a bucket and water or a bottle of water?
If you're old school, you can tell old school triathletes because they'll bring a bucket to put all their stuff in and sit on. If you're a little bit more slim down, which is the approach I would recommend, I don't have a little bottle, but just like a small like sports water bottle is what I would recommend. Just fill it with plain water, and that way you can just squirt your feet off when you get to transition. Get the sand off. And then another pro tip is you can put baby powder in your shoes. And it just kind of makes it easier to get your shoes on, can help eliminate any chafing and stuff. So that's another hint.
Ooh, that's a good one.
So
yeah, I have another one.
What about
are we allowed to bring someone to help us at the transitions, or us even like someone to cheer for us during different events?
Yeah, absolutely. So the park is open to spectators. Do be aware that the park closes to traffic starting at 7 a.m. So make sure that your support crew gets there beforehand. As far as what your support team can do for you during the race, unless you are in the PC, so physically challenged division, those athletes are like paratriathletes are able to have a handler that helps them either in transition or through their swim, bike, and run. If you're racing age group, elite, anything along those non-para guidelines, you cannot have outside assistance. So you need to be self-supported through the triathlon.
Okay. What about at the start of the race? Can they help us get set up or no?
Like coming into transition and help you get your stuff situated
in the beginning?
No.
Beforehand? No. Okay.
Only athletes are permitted in the transition area just for you know, kind of safety and making sure that, you know, just security really. So, okay. So if y'all have questions, I can also share like a how do you set up your transition area just clip to the event. I know that's probably the biggest question mark for a lot of folks. So in lieu, if that was somebody's question today, in lieu of me just trying to verbally explain it, I'll just share a how-to video. And so you can see how everything's situated. Is that helpful?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. Kat, did you have any other questions?
No, I mean, I probably have 1,000. It's my first one, but I'm
Awesome.
listening
Yay. I'm so
Yay.
excited. It's
Yeah,
going to be
everybody's-
a lot of fun. Good deal. All right.
I just had a quick question about picking up packets because I don't know that I'll be able to get there for Saturday.
Yeah.
Is there either a later time Saturday or definitely Sunday morning? I know there is a pickup.
So the packet pickup currently on Saturday is the only packet pickup prior to race day, that one from 10 to 2 at St. Pete Running Company. So the other option is, yes, going to be that pre-race race morning. I know it's early, but getting there, you know, 5:30, 5:45, we'll have been there for a long time and be super set up for you guys. It definitely, you know, takes the kind of the pressure off if you get there a little bit earlier, if you're doing the race day packet pickup. But yes, you can do it on Sunday.
And then there's no Saturday bike racking, right? Everything's just done on Sunday.
Correct. Yes,
Okay.
you'll bring all of your stuff for your race on Sunday morning.
Sunday.
You
Okay.
won't leave anything overnight on site.
Thank you.
Yep. Who's next? Do you want to go?
Okay, so this is also my first triathlon, so I think I just have
Yay.
first time jitters and everything.
Good.
So I'm thinking of like worst case scenario, I'm out on the bike course or something, and I'm just like, I don't know, for something comes up and I'm like, I can't finish. So how do you gracefully and, you know, in a non-embarrassing way, just like not finish the race?
Right. So I just want to preface this by saying a DNF is not a failure. I've been racing myself over 20 years and I have DNF'd a number, you know, handful of races, and it's sometimes there are just things that happen, right? And so what does that look like? So if you're out on course, you know, we'll have a sweeper that's coming through in case anybody needs help. You know, so that's kind of but if you're close enough to kind of walk it in like a mile or so, I would just do that. And then you'll need to turn your timing chip in to an official or race director, which is me. So there's nothing to be embarrassed about, though, not finishing. I will say, though, from a time perspective, we anticipate that every athlete will have ample time because here's the thing, the only like cutoff that we have is the road reopens at 9 a.m. That's just a factor of the permitting for the park. So doing a little bit of backwards math, we're starting at 7:15 a.m. It's going to be a rolling start. Most people, you know, we've only got about 200 athletes right now. So if you're self-seating towards the back, and I can talk about the swim start in more depth if y'all are interested in what the logistics look like there. But just for brevity of this response, you know, most athletes will probably be in the water no later than 7:30. So that gives you an hour and a half effectively, maybe a little bit more, to get through the quarter-mile swim, your transition, and then the 10-mile bike. So, and then once you're on the run, you are home free. We're not going to like start breaking down before the last couple athletes come in. Like that's totally not what we're about. So does that make you feel a little bit better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Everyone's like psyching me up and pumping me up. My family's like, you got it, you can do it. So it's just the normal anxieties for first time events.
I totally understand that for sure.
Coach Coral, is there going to be mechanical assistance on the course? Like if you catch a flat or anything like that?
Ooh. Let me ask, we hadn't anticipated having like roving mechanics like they do like in, you know, longer distance triathlons. So our bike support, we're really lucky to have awesome bike tech support from Bike Sport Oldsmar. So they are going to have a tent on site race morning to like pre-race, provide any technical assistance that y'all might need if you just whatever. Okay, I'm not even going to put anything out in the universe, but if you just need like a last minute, you know, quick fix and need some help, they'll have some pumps and stuff available there too. So let me reach out to Katie and Dave, and Will is the mechanic who's probably going to be on site. They are fantastic. Also, just sidebar, if y'all need anything prior to the race, highly recommend going to check them out. They're incredibly approachable and like top level service, regardless of your experience level. They're not going to be like, oh, you're a beginner, forget it. But let me ask them. But I would not anticipate us having like a roving mechanic on the course, just because that's not typical of a sprint triathlon due to the length.
Okay. And then, yeah, as you mentioned, kind of talking through the start of the race and going through swim, I was wondering if you could kind of expand on that, if it was going to be like corralled estimate time finishes, and then what the markers in the water were going to be like for kind of like spacing and timing and sighting.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll just talk about the buoys first, because that's a little bit more straightforward. I'm not going to say like we're going to have 4 buoys, they're going to be this far apart, just because I was actually talking with our head lifeguard yesterday, Kareem Kirby, who's super experienced. He's got a great crew that's going to be out there supporting y'all on race day. That area, if you've been to Fort DeSoto, it's very tidal. And so we may, you know, it might be 10 yards out and you're hitting swimmable water. If you were there over the summer, there was one where it took athletes out like 50 yards and it was still like shin deep. So, you know, the orientation of the swim course is going to be very much dependent on the depth of the water that we find on race morning. But we will have buoys no more than 100 yards apart. Okay. So it's not going to be like you're, you know, looking down the beach and having to like, you know, squint to see them. They're going to be very visible, and it's going to be, you know, easy to see where you're headed. It's like, you know, very visible to the next buoy. But I won't say like it's going to be X yards out, X yards down the beach. And I also will say, based on the swim conditions that we're seeing race morning, the map, and I think I did mark it as like, this is a tentative setup. It's going to be a one-way swim. We might switch the direction. Y'all are not going to be fighting a current is essentially what we're after. We want to make this as approachable as possible and make it as safe as possible. So if we need to reorient the direction of the swim course, that's one of the other nice things about North Beach, is that we have the ability to do that based on what the conditions are doing on race morning. So, okay, that was buoys. Not as short as I thought. So then as far as like, what does the swim start look like? We were waiting to see sort of how many athletes we would have for this first edition. We're hitting about 200 athletes, which it may sound like a lot. It's actually, in the grand scheme of things, not such a large race, that we're finding that we need to have those age groups start. So in lieu of wave starts, just for efficiency, what we're going to do, like I mentioned, is a rolling start. And so what that looks like, it's essentially a time trial start, and y'all are going to be able to set yourself up depending on how quickly you're going to be moving through the swim. And so, you know, athletes that are a little bit more proficient in the water, we're going to invite to line up closer to the start if they want to, you know, kind of gun for, you know, the top seed or that podium slot. That way they can keep everyone in their sights. If you are someone that wants to take your time, be a little bit more relaxed getting in the water, you're going to want to seed yourself more towards the end of that rolling start line. Okay. So just be strategic. If you are wanting to take your time, there's nothing wrong with being towards the back. You're going to have plenty of time. So I would not account that as a factor for like, you need more time and seed. Don't even worry about it. Okay. If you're feeling moderate, somewhere towards the middle is probably going to be fine. And then as far as what does that look like getting into the water? So likely it'll just be a couple of athletes, just a couple of few seconds apart. We'll have a volunteer or one of our guys from Best Damn Race who is producing the event for us. Somebody will be right there on the start line with you, just cueing you every few seconds, and like your buddy next to you probably. So yeah, it's kind of like lemmings hopping into the water. But I don't know if you've not done a rolling start before. More races are starting to do them. I personally do prefer them to the wave start if you're looking for a more relaxed energy for a triathlon start. I do think they're a lot more approachable. So does that answer your question? Did you have any other questions that cropped up while I was talking about all of the things?
I have a question. It's Kat.
Sorry, Sko, you were muted.
Yeah, sorry. And then I almost clicked cancel out. Okay, yeah. So real quick, one more question. So you said that there is going to be kind of a lifeguard crew in the water. I shamelessly was unprepared for the first triathlon I did in Michigan, and it was a 73, and the waters, the waves, the currents were really terrifying. And I totally was the person that had to like hang on to the kayak and like hopped kayak to buoy kind of thing. If anybody needs just like, you know, a little breather catcher or gets a little overwhelmed, will the people with the lifeguard crew in the water be okay if you kind of like hang on for a second? Are they kind of used to that with this?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing I will say is that the first, if sideways brain moments are totally a thing. If you have your whereabouts with you enough to remind yourself to just stand up, that's going to be your first line of defense. I know it can be like, I jokingly, but you know, sometimes it really is hard to get your bearings if your brain's just being super wacky. But more than likely, you'll probably be able to stand up most points during the course. That said, yes, so we have our designated lifeguard crew that are certified in waterfront. And then we also have a number of support kayakers and paddleboarders that are just out there. They're experienced triathletes that are volunteering for this race, just acting as extra, you know, eyes out on the water and just support for y'all. So yes, you're more than welcome to just catch a breather. That totally happens. I will say one of the biggest strategies to mitigate needing to take like a, oh no, kind of panic break, you know, taking I just need a moment to regroup on my fitness break. Like that's, you know, just something that you'll encounter. But like things that are preventable are kind of like oh geez, I'm out here, like things are getting a little hairy. If you can do a warm up, okay, do like a little jog on the beach, get in the water ahead of time, make sure that your wetsuit is situated. That is going to be line of defense number one. The second one is going to be taking your time getting in the water and not getting swept away in the momentum of the race start. I know it's really hard not to, but again, if you're someone that, you know, you're feeling a little bit around the swim start, do, you know, take that pressure off of you. Seat yourself towards the back of the swim start. Take your time. I'm serious. Walk into the water. It may take you an extra 30 seconds to a minute to actually get into the water to where you can swim, but having that, your just presence around you, your heart rate's not going to be going through the roof as much, you know, adrenaline's going to be pumping, let's be real, but you know, versus you're going to see people ahead of you that are going to be running into the water, high knees, dolphin diving. And like, if that's not something you practiced, or you're feeling a little bit, you know, less confident perhaps in your swim ability, you want to not do that on race day if you've not been practicing it in your training, because your heart rate will go through the darn roof. And that's when your brain starts doing loops and sideways circles. I think I may have gotten off track a little bit there. Sorry. But is that helpful strategy?
Yeah, no, that's
Okay.
brilliant. And I would not have thought about the you can stand in the Florida water thing. So thanks for that.
So I just caveat again, this area does fluctuate as far as the, you know, depth of the water goes. So you might, if you know, might be like a little pit pocket or something on the sandbar, but or if you start kind of, you know, traveling away from the, buoys, it can get deeper, of course, but yeah. And then if you're in a wetsuit too, I don't know if y'all have practiced in your wetsuits yet. If you are going to be wearing one, it is amazing how much buoyancy you get from the wetsuit. You can literally just like straight up and down kind of like bob like a cork in the water. You're super buoyant. So that's one of the reasons why we actually scheduled this race later in the year, is so that it would be wetsuit legal and make that swim just that much more approachable if you're wearing a wetsuit. So you just float.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, Kat, did you have a question? Go for it.
I did. So I saw that there was a training event on the 2nd and the 9th, but I tried to register for it and it wouldn't process. Is that still open?
It should be. I don't know if it would let me tag. I did respond to your message on Facebook. I did see it. If you go back and look, I did say go ahead and respond to or reach out to Coach Leo Briseño, who is hosting those clinics. They're not necessarily like official race sanctioned events. Coach Leo is a really dear friend of the race. He's a wonderful swim coach in the area, like hands down the best in my opinion. So Kat, if you send me a Facebook message, I will send you his phone number so you can text him. That's probably the best way to get a hold of him. And just let him know that you had an issue. But yeah, it's going to be a great opportunity. And those are still both open.
Is he doing like a whole series, the whole training event, or like each piece, or just tips and tricks of each, or?
So most likely what you're going to find experience-wise for those clinics, a lot of it is dependent, because I've coached with Leo in the past. What those sessions typically look like is based on who shows up. And so if, a lot of beginners are coming, which I think is most likely the case, he'll kind of break down, similar to what I just discussed, like what's the best strategy for race morning, getting into like swimming with a wetsuit, go out, do a test swim, just check things out. He'll give you some tips for open water technique, things like that. So it's going to be a really enriching session, really beneficial if you can make it out for either the 2nd or the 9th.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else? These are great questions, y'all.
That's great to know for Coach Leo. I've swam out at Clearwater a couple of times, and so I hadn't registered for that yet, but I was planning to go just to get more wetsuit experience because I haven't really broke that out in a while. So that's great. Good to know you guys are connected there too.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Amanda. Hey, Mitzi. Good to see you guys. Hey, Luis.
Hi.
All right. Anybody? Don't be shy. I just want to say there's no such thing as a dumb question. And if you're thinking it and haven't asked it yet, somebody else is probably thinking it too. So go ahead and ask away.
Carl, I don't have a question about the race for me, but are you still looking for volunteers for like land things? Because I have a husband and son who would love to volunteer.
We love volunteers. Yes.
Awesome.
Audrey, I'll connect with you. Thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah, and they
that would be
volunteered for
amazing.
races in the past, so they have experience.
They're well trained. I love it.
Yes, they are. They're great support. Thanks.
Good deal. Oh, I just saw, Sco, you popped a great tip going back to the transition stuff. Sco was saying if you're a sock wearer, you can also shake your baby powder into your socks. It's a pro tip. It's good stuff. Swim questions.
I had a race route question or for running.
Yeah.
I just did a half there a couple weeks ago. And it was pretty badly marked, no judgment to the race, but it was confusing. And there were a couple wrong turns as we were like running from like the parking lots to go to like the very kind of north picnic part. And then it wasn't really clear on the south part with the way the sidewalks kind of shifted from the running path to get to kind of where the actual Fort DeSoto is. And so I was wondering if that, like how markings were, user error, I totally could have like zoomed in more and looked at it, but I totally assumed that it would make sense. But there were a lot of little like side offs and parking lot loops and things. So is it pretty like down and back, straightforward?
Are you talking about the run?
Yeah, just the run. The bike
Uh-huh.
makes sense. The bike
Is
real
super
easy.
straightforward. The swim super straightforward. The run, yes. So we're really lucky. I don't know if anybody's ever done the BDR run events that are local. So they actually are producing the race for us. Nick Zivalik and his team, they're top notch. Like you couldn't find anybody better. And so all of those details are going to be down to the letter. I hope it's the best marked tri course that you've ever experienced, because that's what we anticipate. So any turns are going to be very explicitly marked. We'll probably have a volunteer down at the opposite end, just keeping an eye on things. So I wouldn't worry about route marking, and it's not going to be a user error. No shade intended on any other events.
Nope, it was great. Super fun. I highly recommend it still, but it was just a little confusing a couple moments there. There was some extra distance added on.
Hey, bonus miles. There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, I have a clarifying question because you said it earlier with the bike route. I know the road's closed to traffic until 9. I know this can change, but did you say that the bike route is going to be on like the actual path, like the sidewalk that's closest to the road, or?
No. So if you've been out to Fort DeSoto, there's the main road. That's where it's going to be. So you're heading out of the parking lot, right-hand turn. You're going to follow it. Fort DeSoto is kind of shaped like a boomerang. So you're going to go down to the very end of the park. It's nice. There are roundabouts. So you're not like turning on the road either. It's like a really nice roundabout. You can see the Skyway at one end, and then it's going to shoot you back, head up to the north end of the park on the main road. Again, another roundabout, nice and chill. And that's going to be pretty much right at the tail end of your bike ride. And it's going to be another right-hand turn right into transition.
Okay, at some point, I don't know, I started convincing myself that we like just had to be all congregated on the sidewalk, and I was like, I don't know, this isn't making sense to me. But
You'll have plenty of space, I promise. Surely you'll have more questions than this.
When you do your kind of transition explanation, I feel like I saw that it might be kind of tight on space for having a wetsuit and then like taking your bike off the rack and then kind of hanging your wetsuit over it. Will you just make sure to kind of hint at what like is PC for this race for like putting your wetsuit up once you get out of that part of the transition?
Yeah, so I will say typical triathlons, you're gonna have 8 bikes to a transition rack. We have enough rack space where we're gonna most likely have 6 bikes per rack. So you guys are gonna have a little bit more elbow room. And yes, I will, like I said, drop that video link, probably be like early to middle part of this week, for the just demo visual of what transition looks like. But just as far as like what to do with your wetsuit, just take a couple extra seconds, shuck it off. I would just fold it down. It doesn't have to be neat and tidy and perfect, but just, kind of get it, bunch. So it's not like arms and legs are everywhere. Just fold it down, a little bit simply and kind of put it towards the edge of your stuff and you should be fine. I wouldn't recommend hanging it on the bike rack. So that's a good question. Yes, ma'am. Oh, you don't have to raise your hand, just go for it.
So when I'm assuming at the packet pickup, we'll know our number, our race number. That's the number for all transitions, right? And then is there someone going to show us where to take our bikes in the morning, where our space is that we rack up and all that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the racks will all have rack numbers that correspond to what your bib number is. So it'll be very easy to find your spot. So your number is the same number throughout the entire event. What y'all are going to find in the race packet, other than some nice goodies from our sponsors and vendors. So you're gonna have a swim cap that's Babe branded. It's gonna be super fun. You do need to wear the swim cap. And then as far as numbers go, you're gonna have temporary tattoos of your race number. And then you're going to have a sticker sheet of numbers. and there will be a little explanation on the outside of your packet as to where to put those, but it'll be like a helmet number, one for the frame of your bike, etc. And then you're also going to have your race bib. One of the cool things that we are putting in your race packet as well is a bib belt that it clips around your waist, and it has little toggles that you attach your number to. So you don't have to faff around with safety pins or anything. Morning of, you just clip that number on your bib belt or on your waist, headed out on the run, you're good to go. So, yep.
That's so nice.
I'm really excited. They turned out really great.
I saw somewhere else that there was, is there an ankle band that we wear during the swim? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you for reminding me. So that is your timing chip. I can't recall if we're doing disposable or reusable. So TBD on that. But you will at packet pickup, you'll also receive your timing chip. Really appreciate you reminding me. That you'll need to put on prior to the race start, and you'll wear it all the way through to the finish line. So that's how we track your time.
Okay.
And one comment on that time, when you wear it, it's better to wear it on the left leg, because you don't want to wear it on the right and have something bulky that might run into the chain in the bike. That
Thanks,
make sense?
Louise. Yeah, that can be helpful.
Will the transition area in the morning be pretty well lit? Because when we showed up for that half a couple weeks ago on Halloween, it was pitch black. It was so dark.
Yeah, we'll have a couple light towers out there so y'all can see what's going on.
Okay.
So, mhm. All right. Last call.